She regrets losing you because you became irreplaceable. Stoic Bloom. She thought you'd always be there. Now that you're gone, she's haunted by silence louder than your presence ever was. While she's swiping for someone new, every man she meets only reminds her of the one she lost. You didn't walk away to make her suffer. You walked away to find peace. But ironically, that's what makes her suffer most. Section 1. The power of walking away. Most men think that walking away means defeat, but in reality, it's the beginning of your personal power. When you walk away from someone who no longer values you, you're not giving up. You're setting the standard. Walking away is not just a physical act. It's a mental revolution. It's the moment you declare, I am not someone to be tolerated. I am someone to be treasured. And that energy, that self-worth is what turns heads long after you've turned your back. Why does walking away hit so hard? Because it disrupts the emotional script. She expected you to chase, to apologize, to plead, but you didn't. Instead, you vanished with dignity. And that's when the silence becomes deafening. When the lack of your reaction becomes the loudest message you've ever sent. The Stoics taught us to control what we can and release what we can't. Epictetus said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And in this case, not reacting at all is the ultimate reaction. The moment you stop trying to prove your worth to someone else, you begin proving it to yourself. And ironically, that's when she starts to notice. Just as you stop needing her to. She'll scroll through your old messages. She'll replay your voice in her head. But the one thing she won't be able to find, a man who's willing to walk away not because he doesn't care, but because he finally does, for himself. If you're still texting her a good morning while she left you on read 3 weeks ago, my friend, it's time to unsubscribe from desperation and hit subscribe on this channel instead. Welcome to Stoic Bloom, where we don't chase love, we chase legacy. Stoic Bloom, wisdom that outlasts desire. Section 2. Why women regret losing high-value men. Regret is a silent teacher, and when a woman loses a high-value man, that teacher never stops talking. But let's be clear, regret doesn't come from loneliness alone. It comes from the painful realization that she let go of something rare, not just a boyfriend, not just a man, but a standard. High-value men aren't common. In a world full of men chasing validation, a man who chooses purpose, discipline, and peace becomes a lighthouse in chaos. He doesn't seek attention. He commands it by simply being consistent, grounded, and focused. When she loses that kind of man, it stings. Not immediately. At first, she might feel free, empowered, or even relieved. But as time passes and replacements fail to measure up, the truth begins to settle. She didn't just lose a partner, she lost an anchor. Someone who didn't just love her, but challenged her. Someone who didn't just flatter her, but made her grow. And here's where Stoic wisdom hits hardest. Seneca once said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more. That is poor." She thought she could trade you for more excitement, more attention, more novelty. But in chasing more, she lost what was enough. Regret also lives in comparison. She'll meet other men, but they won't hold space like you did. They won't handle conflict with calm. They won't challenge her with silent strength or provide stability when life shakes her core. Every shortcoming she finds in them becomes a mirror of what she once had with you. That's when the ghost of you becomes more present than the men in her life. Because a high-value man doesn't just exist in memories, he lingers in standards. Finally, what truly amplifies her regret is the version of herself she was becoming when she was with you. A better version, a more focused, inspired, elevated self. And when she tries to find that woman again, she realizes it wasn't just her. It was who she became because of you. And that realization cuts deeper than any goodbye. Section 3. The psychological ripple effect of distance. Distance isn't just space, it's revelation. When a man pulls back, something powerful begins to happen. She doesn't just lose your presence, she loses the illusion of control. And in that silence, something unexpected grows. Awareness. First, distance activates what psychologists call the scarcity principle. When something becomes less available, its value skyrockets. When you're no longer a tap she can turn on at will, she starts wondering where the water went. She gets thirsty, not for your body, but for the peace, clarity, and strength you brought into her life. She thought you'd always be one message away. But when her notifications go silent, her mind gets loud. Why isn't he chasing me? Did he move on? Was I the problem? And right there in that doubt is where the ripple begins. Second, distance forces emotional accountability. When you're around, she doesn't have to face her emotions. You do it for her. But once you're gone, she has no choice. The void isn't just your absence, it's the emotional weight she never carried while you were holding it all. As Epictetus taught, you are disturbed not by events, but by the view you take of them. And the view she now takes, that maybe she underestimated you. Maybe she thought silence meant weakness. But in Stoic terms, silence is restraint. Silence is strength. Silence is the choice not to react, but to reflect. Third, distance flips the emotional power dynamic. In most relationships, the one who appears to care less holds more sway. But in Stoic love, it's not about who cares less. It's about who controls themselves more. When you're not emotionally scrambling for her validation, you're no longer reactive, you're rare. Finally, distance is a test disguised as time. If she truly valued you, the space will illuminate it. If not, it'll expose her lack of depth. Either way, you win, because the Stoic man doesn't pull away to punish. He pulls away to preserve. And that preservation over time becomes transformation. She'll start romanticizing the very thing she once dismissed. Your calmness, your focus, the way you didn't beg, the way you disappeared like a gentleman. Still checking if she viewed your Instagram story? That's not stoicism, that's spiritual poverty. Click subscribe and let's upgrade your inner game before your self-worth files for divorce. Stoic Bloom, where silence speaks louder than begging. Section 4, the power of being irreplaceable. You don't become irreplaceable by being perfect. You become irreplaceable by being authentic. Most men try to impress women with surface-level traits, money, status, charm. But a high-value man leaves a mark deeper than attraction. He leaves an imprint, and that imprint becomes impossible to replicate. The first layer of being irreplaceable is integrity. In a world full of people who bend to please, a man who stands firm in his values, even when it costs him something, commands a unique respect. He doesn't say yes when he means no. He doesn't compromise his principles for validation. And she may not always agree with him, but she'll never forget the unwavering clarity of a man who knows who he is. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." That kind of ethical backbone makes you unforgettable, not because you played her game better, but because you refused to play it at all. Next comes emotional intelligence. Most men either bottle up their feelings or bleed them out. But a Stoic man feels deeply. He just refuses to be ruled by those feelings. He listens more than he speaks. He doesn't explode. He responds. And when she finds herself with someone who lacks this emotional depth, she realizes what she's lost. A man who could sit in silence with her sadness and not try to fix it. Just be with it. Third, you become irreplaceable by how you make her feel about herself, not in moments of romance, but in moments of discomfort. You challenged her. You didn't let her excuses slide. You encouraged her growth, not her stagnation. That kind of love doesn't always feel good, but it always feels real. And here's the irony. She didn't fully appreciate that when she had it, because transformation is often uncomfortable, and ego doesn't like being confronted. But with time, she'll look back and see that you weren't just a partner, you were a mirror. And what she saw in you was the future self she now struggles to find alone. Lastly, being irreplaceable means you left a legacy, not just memories, but a shift in her worldview, a redefinition of what a man could be. The books you shared, the philosophies you lived, the way you turned chaos into calm and conflict into clarity. Those things don't disappear with time, they deepen. She may move on, but every so often she'll compare, and every comparison will whisper the same truth. He was different. Section 5. How to reclaim your power and move forward. Let's make one thing clear. Your goal is not to make her regret losing you. Your goal is to become so whole, so grounded, so profoundly fulfilled that her regret becomes irrelevant. Reclaiming your power isn't about revenge, it's about redirection. Instead of pouring your energy into someone who couldn't see your worth, you start pouring it into yourself. And as you rise, she fades, not because you erased her, but because you outgrew the version of yourself that needed her. The first step? Stop seeking validation. Every time you check her stories, reread old texts, or wonder what she thinks of you, you hand her pieces of your peace. A Stoic man doesn't give away his serenity to people who didn't earn it. Your value doesn't shrink because she didn't recognize it. It shrinks because you forgot it. Epictetus once said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." So yes, let her think you're cold, distant, uncaring. While she's stuck judging, you're evolving. Second, channel that pain into growth. Get back in the gym, not to post selfies, but to honor your temple. Start the business, not for applause, but for freedom. Learn the craft, not to impress, but to express. Every effort you make to rebuild yourself is a silent sermon. I am not broken, I am becoming. Third, curate your circle. Not everyone deserves access to your new season. Surround yourself with mentors, brothers, and creators who force you to level up. You don't need more attention. You need more intention. And finally, embrace the mindset of abundance. There isn't one soulmate. There are thousands of potential partners, friends, and tribes who will see you clearly once you see yourself clearly first. The Stoics never chased people, they chased virtue. And as Seneca reminded us, he who is brave is free. So don't waste time trying to prove to her that she made a mistake. Live in such a way that the only thing that she can say is, "Damn, I wasn't ready for a man like that." Still thinking she's the one? My friend, she was just a plot twist, not the whole story. Hit subscribe, join the Stoic Bloom Brotherhood, and let's build a life so powerful she'll need Wi-Fi in heaven to keep watching you. Stoic Bloom. Grow so strong they can only admire from afar. Section 6. Why absence makes the heart grow fonder. You've heard the saying 1,000 times, absence makes the heart grow fonder. But what you may not realize is that this isn't just a romantic cliche, it's a psychological law of emotional contrast. And it works especially well when you're unforgettable. Here's why. Absence creates contrast. When you're always around, your presence fades into background noise. She stops noticing the small things, your encouragement, your grounding energy, your calm during chaos. But the moment you're gone, those things stand out like stars in a moonless sky. Suddenly, the things she once took for granted become the things she craves. As Marcus Aurelius said, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. And when you remove yourself, her thoughts begin painting pictures of you, vivid ones. She doesn't remember the arguments. She remembers the man who helped her breathe easier when life got heavy. Absence intensifies emotion. Familiarity dulls intensity. When you were always there, she didn't have to feel much because she knew you'd be back. But when you're no longer predictable, her emotions awaken. Memory becomes her drug. She replays the way you looked at her when words weren't needed. The way your silence wasn't passive. It was powerful. And in that nostalgia, she starts to idealize you. Not because you're perfect, but because you're no longer accessible. And what's unavailable becomes romanticized. Absence disrupts control. When you're always available, she holds the reins. But when you step back, the dynamic shifts. You're no longer orbiting her world, and that makes her question her gravitational pull. It unsettles her ego. It shakes her assumptions. It forces her to ask, did I misjudge him? The Stoics believe power belongs to those who need the least. When you disappear without resentment, without drama, you become powerful in a way she can't explain. You're no longer a player in her story. You've become a mystery, and mystery is magnetic. In your absence, she might start checking your profile, asking friends about you, or even trying to casually re-enter your life. But it won't be because you chased her, it's because you stopped running. In that stillness, you became unforgettable. Section 7. The role of scarcity in relationships. Scarcity isn't about playing games, it's about revealing value. In the Stoic worldview, we learn to cherish what is rare, to treasure what is virtuous, and to detach from what is excessive. And in relationships, scarcity becomes one of the most psychologically powerful forces because it separates the fleeting from the formidable. First, scarcity amplifies perception. When something is always available, its value becomes diluted. But the moment it becomes less accessible, its value multiplies. The same applies to you. When you were always calling, texting, showing up, you were taken for granted. But when you disappeared into your purpose, you became something else. Rare. Rarity forces reflection. It forces people to look back because there is nothing left to reach for in the present. And when she looks back, what she sees is the man she didn't truly appreciate until he stopped showing up. Second, scarcity creates urgency. When someone thinks they have unlimited chances with you, they don't move. They delay. They devalue. But the moment she senses you're slipping into a life that no longer includes her, panic sets in. Suddenly, she's not just remembering you, she's regretting losing you. This isn't manipulation, this is nature. It's how the mind works. As Seneca put it, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. And she wasted the chance to grow with you, while you use that same time to outgrow her. Third, scarcity shifts attention. When you're always offering your time and energy, she gets comfortable, complacent. But the moment you stop pouring yourself into her cup, she starts to thirst. She starts wondering. She starts looking for you and everyone else. And the tragedy is, they won't measure up. Wait, because scarcity has now reframed you in her mind, not as someone who left, but as someone she can't replace. Finally, scarcity redefines your worth. Think of diamonds. Their value isn't just in their beauty, it's in their rarity. You don't become valuable by proving you're enough. You become valuable by walking away when you are. And she doesn't see it. A man who knows his worth is terrifying because he doesn't need to be chosen. He chooses. Still giving 100% to someone who won't even charge their phone to reply. My friend, she doesn't deserve your Wi-Fi, let alone your energy. Subscribe to Stoic Bloom, where your self-worth has unlimited data and zero need for validation. Stoic Bloom. Stay rare, stay remembered. Section 8. How to use emotional detachment to your advantage. Emotional detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop bleeding for people who wouldn't even hand you a bandage. It's the art of staying present, but not possessed. Connected, but not consumed. And in the world of high-value men, emotional detachment is one of the most underappreciated forms of power. First, detachment protects your self-worth. When you're overly invested in someone who's inconsistent, disrespectful, or emotionally unavailable, you begin to abandon yourself. But by detaching, you reclaim the throne of your inner world. You say, "My peace is no longer negotiable." And in that moment you rise, not because you stopped feeling, but because you stopped leaking. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Emotional detachment is that realization in action. It's knowing that no one else controls your happiness unless you hand them the keys. Second, detachment creates intrigue. The man who doesn't flinch, doesn't chase, doesn't beg, he becomes a puzzle, and people are drawn to what they can't immediately figure out. While she's used to emotional chaos, your calm presence becomes rare, magnetic. She'll ask herself, why isn't he reacting? Does he not care, or does he know something I don't? The answer, both. Third, detachment redirects your energy. Instead of obsessing over her texts or moods, you focus on what truly matters: your purpose, your health, your empire. And the irony? That quiet focus makes you even more attractive. Because nothing is sexier than a man who's busy becoming his best self. You're not bitter, you're building. Finally, detachment flips the narrative. When you no longer seek her attention, she starts seeking yours. You're not proving anything. You're simply living. And the moment she realizes you don't need her, but could choose her, is the moment she feels what you once did: uncertainty. The Stoics never said to cut off emotion. They taught us to master it. Epictetus reminds us, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. And few things are more outside your control than someone else's affection. So when you detach, you're not withdrawing. You're elevating. You're not moving on with bitterness. You're moving forward with balance. Section 9. Why time is your greatest ally. Time doesn't just pass, it reveals. It reveals who was genuine and who was temporary. It reveals whether she truly cared or was just entertained. And for the Stoic man, time is never the enemy. It's the silent partner in your transformation. First, time creates perspective. In the noise of daily interactions, it's easy to forget at someone's worth. But distance over time forces her to reflect on the stability you brought, on the way you listened without fixing, on the strength in your silence. As days stretch into weeks and weeks into months, your absence becomes a mirror. And what she sees isn't you, it's what she lost. Second, time softens the emotional edges. The arguments that felt sharp begin to blur. The details of disagreements fade. What remains? The warmth, the laughter, the feeling of being safe in your presence. Slowly, her mind rewrites the emotional narrative, not because it's revisionist, but because time filters what mattered most. Third, time fuels idealization. The less she knows about your life now, the more her imagination fills the gaps. And imagination is never neutral, it romanticizes. She remembers only the best. And while she's romanticizing, you're rebuilding. You're evolving into someone even she wouldn't recognize anymore. Lastly, time proves resilience. You didn't fall apart. You didn't spiral. You didn't chase. You rose. With discipline, with grace, with purpose. And in doing so, you proved what Stoicism teaches, that the only thing stronger than heartbreak is the man who grows through it. If you've made it this far, you're not here by accident. You're part of a rare group of men who are no longer interested in playing emotional games, begging for affection, or proving your worth to people who couldn't recognize it. Here at Stoic Bloom, we don't chase love. We embody virtue. We build character. And we rise in silence while the world waits for noise. This channel isn't for the weak-hearted. It's for those willing to take a deep look in the mirror and say, I will become the man no one forgets, not through drama, but through discipline. So if you're ready to walk with strength, speak with clarity, and detach with peace, this is your home. Subscribe not for her, not for revenge, but for the version of you that's been waiting to be reborn. Let's grow together into men who leave a legacy, not just a memory. Stoic Bloom. Become unforgettable by becoming unshakable. Section 9. Why time is your greatest ally. Time doesn't just pass, it reveals. It reveals who was genuine and who was temporary. It reveals whether she truly cared or was just entertained. And for the Stoic man, time is never the enemy. It's the silent partner in your transformation. First, time creates perspective. In the noise of daily interactions, it's easy to forget someone's worth. But distance over time forces her to reflect on the stability you brought, on the way you listened without fixing, on the strength in your silence. As days stretch into weeks and weeks into months, your absence becomes a mirror. And what she sees isn't you, it's what she lost. Second, time softens the emotional edges. The arguments that felt sharp begin to blur. The details of disagreements fade. What remains? The warmth, the laughter, the feeling of being safe in your presence. Slowly, her mind rewrites the emotional narrative, not because it's revisionist, but because time filters what mattered most. Third, time fuels idealization. The less she knows about your life now, the more her imagination fills the gaps. And imagination is never neutral, it romanticizes. She remembers only the best. And while she's romanticizing, you're rebuilding. You're evolving into someone even she wouldn't recognize anymore. Lastly, time proves resilience. You didn't fall apart. You didn't spiral. You didn't chase. You rose. With discipline, with grace, with purpose. And in doing so, you proved what Stoicism teaches, that the only thing stronger than heartbreak is the man who grows through it. If you've made it this far, you're not here by accident. You're part of a rare group of men who are no longer interested in playing emotional games, begging for affection, or proving your worth to people who couldn't recognize it. Here at Stoic Bloom, we don't chase love. We embody virtue. We build character. And we rise in silence while the world waits for noise. This channel isn't for the weak-hearted. It's for those willing to take a deep look in the mirror and say, I will become the man no one forgets, not through drama, but through discipline. So if you're ready to walk with strength, speak with clarity, and detach with peace. This is your home. Subscribe not for her, not for revenge, but for the version of you that's been waiting to be reborn. Let's grow together into men who leave a legacy, not just a memory. Stoic Bloom, become unforgettable by becoming unshakable.